This is a video just comparing two pours side by side with some basic colors. The only thing that I want to test is a canvas with the backing using the Artist Loft fluid flow acrylic that Artist Loft puts out, and just a basic craft paint as the background. I wanted to see what type of cell action is going to happen without silicone, but the base paint being the flow acrylic from Artist Loft. So everything is basically the same here. The three paints I'm going to use in both pours is basic paint. I believe these paints are fine for acrylic pours. This is the magenta, ultramarine blue, and cadmium yellow hue. Both pours will have the same paint in them. And then I'm also adding some of the Artist Loft white in the pour. Again, the only thing that will be different will be the base paint. Now, how I mix the base paint, this is with the Artist Loft, is 1 part paint, 2 part of the Flood Floetrol. Flood Floetrol, as you've probably heard in many other videos from people, is a paint conditioner. It helps with the flow of the paint. So the consistency of both of the paints, the Artist Loft and the craft paint, are the same amount of the Flood Floetrol, with the exception of a little bit more water in the Artist Loft to give it a more, so that the actual paint flowing that's going on the canvas is the same. I wanted to keep everything as much the same as I possibly can. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the canvas, both canvases. The base paints, let me put my gloves on, that I use for my acrylic pours are always a little bit thinner than the regular paint. That is because the base paint, which I like to put a base coat down because it gives the paint that I'm putting on the canvas a little bit more fluidity. Spread the paint out on the canvas. When I add water, I mix my water with Floetrol a little bit so that I'm just not adding pure water. No problem with that. It's just something I do. So I don't like to add a lot of water to my paints. I use a lot of golden paints in my pours because I sell a lot of my pours. But for demonstration, for just trying out a new technique, all of the things like that, I don't necessarily use the Golden's paint. Yeah, I'm dipping my fingers. I want to get the edges covered without. All right. So again, we're covering. I marked the cups so I wouldn't get them confused when I put them to the side. All right, the base paint is down. I see a couple bubbles, so let's see if we can pop those bubbles. All right, so let's start Now I always put the white on the bottom. The white is in a semi-opaque. It's a heavier paint. And these are 8x10 canvases. So I think I want probably maybe about 6 ounces. I'll probably have a little bit more. I don't have a problem having extra paint. I mentioned that on several of my other videos. I will use them. I dip watercolor paper into it. I will dip sometimes coasters. I've made jewelry for friends. I don't have a problem with when I have extra paint. I will always use it for something. Now again, there is no silicone. Give this just the same light stir. Cups look the same. I don't see anything different. Again, I probably have a lot more paint than I need, so we're going to have a lot of fun with some extra. Let me go ahead and flip these over. Okay. Put a little stick under here. All right. Here is the one with the Artist Loft. Upon first look, I'm going to go ahead and take it to the corners. Not have any negative space. I'm going to stretch it out on both. I want to do the same. I do like that negative space down there, but for the purpose of this, we're going to leave it the same. This is the pour with the craft paint as the base. Got some really pretty cells going on there. Really don't want to lose those cells, so I'm going to try to bring those big cells back. And I'm not going to take it all the way down. I like those big cells, so this was not necessarily a painting that I was going to per se keep. A lot of my paintings, because there's a lot of paintings out there that are pours. I do a lot with resin. So let's heating up, didn't do that much. Let's see if we can stretch some of the cells out here. Trying to just see if I can give it some sort of composition. This has actually got so all in all, having the base coat as the Artist Loft, which I've heard out there makes cells, doesn't seem to give more cells than just the basic acrylic craft paint as the base. So I think I'm going to scoot this over, and let me see if I can grab another canvas here. All right, let's go with the Artist Loft again as the base coat. Magic formula. Is it the Floetrol that you put in it? Is it adding a certain additive? Which, of course, additives do make a huge difference. Okay, so what we're going to do on these, again, white is the heaviest, so I'm not going to put any silicone in the white, but very, very much use. Okay, I'm not going to even stir that. A little less white. Blue. Magenta. Yellow. Blue. Magenta. Yellow. On these other two, it's really interesting because I got a lot of the yellow on the one and hardly any yellow on this one. So here's the silicone. So a lot of people say that they don't use silicone, and one thing that I've learned using silicone when I do resin these is it's a lot of work to get the silicone out of the painting. But that's okay. I don't mind, because the bottom line is basically the painting is, you want it to be a beautiful painting. All right, there are a lot of cells. So you can tell right now the additive of the silicone is definitely a cell keeper. Let me see if I can do this without. Let me go ahead and bring this over, cover the canvas. Actually, I like to stop right there. I like that, even though I wanted to cover the canvas. I like how we have the white space at the bottom. Just have to put more paint down here so I don't get it dirty. But I like this. I like the different cells that came up on this. Got a lot of paint down there to do some fun things with. So let's do the same. We're going to be consistent. Use a torch. It's really pretty. So what I will probably do, these when I get a painting like the pores over here, where there's not a lot of excitement. Here, let's go to the edge. And I'll look at it and I say, okay, there's not a lot of excitement to this pore here. Let's see what we can do. Actually look very pretty with a resin. However, if you don't resin, and resin is a whole nother animal out there, whole nother art form. Let's see what we can do to give this a little pizzazz and excitement. All right. There's an added beautiful little ribbon of paint. Keep some of the old. In some of my other videos, you'll hear me talking about composition. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to cut off the painting. I didn't want this blob to be right in the center. There's something about the pleasingness of the eye to have the composition coming off the canvas, not exactly in a center spot. I think I'd like to add some white to kind of a little interest there. Okay, let's add a little bit down here. Another thing that I like to do, let's see if I can turn this around and do it, is do a little swipe there. Kind of brings the white down a little bit. So I add a little pink, magenta. Okay. And add a little fun to it. I can see the three of these sitting together in a triptych. So let's see if we can add a little interest to that one. That already has a lot of white, so I'm not going to add any more white. No yellow. Let's go ahead and put a lot of yellow in there. Okay. These cells are really interesting. That really would have looked kind of pretty with it resined. But if we wanted to do a triptych with these and have the three of them together, then having this one look like the others would be important. This one, I think I'm going to try to keep that white up there. Keep some of the white down at the bottom. I like that. Adds a little interest. One thing that I may do, since I have white space in 2 of these, is instead of this corner having the pink, make this corner white space. This is to kind of bring the painting back into the fold so it goes with the other. So add a little white space here. This is gonna have to drip off a little bit. A lot of paint there. There we go. Combination of the white space in the corner and the white space going on here. Let's see if we can chip this a little. Here, I like that. All right, so my experiment to just see if Artist Loft as the base made any difference whatsoever did not seem to make a difference. You know, maybe on a bigger scale. I'm trying to think if there's any other parameters that I could have tested under. But the thing that did make the difference is the no silicone with both of them. Just did not, the painting just, in my opinion, just wasn't very exciting. Now, I've done pieces before with the golden acrylics and with the fluids, and they're beautiful. And not always is there a lot of silicone in them. I do know that the pigments, now these are all Liquitex basics, but the pigments, I see something I want to add here, are not as bright in craft paint as they are. The finer, the more, I guess, high level paint, the pigments seem to stay. So what we'll do is on this is we'll do a check on this when it dries to see what some of the outcome would be when it dries and how bright the pigment stayed. If you see a pour done on a YouTube, don't hesitate to ask what the art looks like when it's dried. It kind of helps, especially if they've shared with you what the paints were used. Because when this dries, some of the coloring of the pigments does it changes. So it is, to me, important to know how it reacts, because my experience is the pigments in the craft paints just don't have the level of holding the pigment and the color as brightly as some of the pigments in, say, the goldens. That's just my recollection. All right. I can't think of anything else. My experiment of what I meant to do kind of changed and altered.